Hey there, it's Kayte Sabaker with my favorite things of 2024. Now, if you've ever seen any of my favorite things before, you'll know that it's not complete without some kind of glue. So, as always, here is yet another glue gun. This is from Uline, which I've actually never ordered anything from them before, but I was recently on a job where my coworker had this glue gun. And being the ever curious gluer myself, I had to learn more. He couldn't stop talking about how great this was. And I have to say, he's not wrong. Some of the features I really like about it are this tip here. It's extremely precise. So you can see how thin it is. It doesn't drip. Because my first thought was, there's no drip tray. I love a drip tray. But the whole time I used it, anytime I set it down, I'd go to look and nothing else came out. The tip doesn't even get that globby with glue. It's great. So that's one thing I really like about it. Obviously, it has a great built-in base here so that it can freestand on its own. Set it down. It doesn't move. It is temperature controlled. So you can do the high-low settings. You know, I love a high-low setting on a glue gun. And to illustrate the fact that this thing has variable settings, I did some glue tests on this bit of foam. If you've ever used a high temperature glue gun with foam, you'll know that the minute the glue hits that foam, it just starts to eat away and create this dish. Now with this, I tested it. So first I did my trusty old Ryobi battery cordless glue gun, and I did the high setting. Well, you can see here, it's very dished. It melted right through as soon as it hit it. I did a test here of the Uline high setting, and maybe it went down a little bit because it was on high, but it doesn't look that visible to me. Then I did a low test where this is my Ryobi low test, and it did dish out even on the lowest settings. And here with my Uline, it didn't dish at all. The last component that I really liked about it is this glue. So this is the glue from Uline that they recommend you get with it. Now, full disclosure, this is expensive glue. I want to say it was like $150 for a massive box. Like, this thing was so heavy, it was hard for me to carry. So it'll probably last me quite a long time. But the quality difference is really noticeable. One of the first things I think I noticed about using this glue gun with this glue, it dries faster and cools down faster than any other hot glue gun I use. So you don't have to sit there for a long time holding, making sure it doesn't slide down. You don't necessarily have to hit it with, canned air to cool it off. And just the quality that you're left with, you can almost see it just in comparison of my Ryobi with a standard cheap glue and the Uline with this glue. It finishes with more of a matte finish. It's harder, it's stronger. I can't even describe everything about it. I just like it a lot. Now, one tip I'll give you about tips is through the course of this job, I worked with my coworker. He's very clumsy, as am I, and he just kept catching the cord with his foot. And so this glue gun ended up on the floor a number of times. And if it falls tip first, that tip might break or bend. So seeing the struggles he went through, I went ahead and ordered a spare tip just to be safe and planning for that eventuality. So if you get this, I'm just gonna put it out there, maybe have a spare tip just in case. But this glue gun might be my new favorite glue gun. We'll see, time will tell. There's room in my heart for endless number of glue guns. So the next thing I'm gonna talk about is this. It is another sander. Again, if you know me, I do a lot of sanding. I usually have something to say about cutting tools, about sanding tools. This is kind of a really fun specialty tool. I have a friend, Mark Dubois, hey Mark, who was using this. I also work with him, and he was like, you gotta check this out. It's so great. It really changes your workflow. So it is an ultrasonic kind of sanding tool. I want to equate it to almost like a little mini Dremel, but it doesn't fully spin. It just sort of shakes. It's an oscillating tool. And I find it works really well for things like 3D prints. I have to sand so many 3D prints in my line of work, and I kind of hate it. So anything that can help with that process, I'm a big fan of. So this tool comes with a number of sanding paper that sticks to it. It almost looks, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of an electric toothbrush. That's probably the best example I can give you. So you pull the cap off, so. And that is also another note. This thing might turn on and off very easily. So here we go. We have a number of different heads that you can pop on. You stick the sanding paper to the front of it, pop it on, and then you can activate it and use it to your heart's content. I love that they come in so many different shapes. Like this one specifically is pretty cool. It's a right angle shape. So if you have a corner that you're trying to work in, you can get right in there with that. They have a number of rounded ones, which, oh my gosh, like I love me a spindle sander. So being able to have a rounded sanding tool is extremely nice. They have different sizes of flat plates, and they even have like a little sort of trowel triangular shape for getting into the hard to reach areas. One tip I will say, I recommend that as you apply your adhesive backed sanding paper, do it without it attached to there, because you saw how easy it is to turn this thing on. So attach your sanding paper first, then you can pop it on here, get it the direction you want. I like to turn it away from me, and then you turn it on. So it has 3 settings. Obviously there's the lowest, medium, high. You can see there's a different color light for each setting that you do, and then you can turn it right back off. I have really enjoyed using this. It's a great, helpful tool, especially like I use a lot of diamond files for doing this precision work. And anything that saves me having to exert that pressure and force is really helpful. So yeah, I use this a lot, especially on 3D prints, but anything really delicate and fine that you don't want to sit there forever doing, it really speeds up the process. Something else that is handy, I will show you what some of these sanding paper bits look like. Let's see. Here you go. Here they have different sizes, and on this one, I'll show you some of the different shapes. There we go. I will recommend saving your packaging because they show you the different heads and which sandpaper you should use for each shape. So even though you can make your own choices on what grit you use based on the job you're doing, you will probably need to refer to this guide of, okay, which square shape am I putting on that one, head? So this is a very, very handy tool. I will be keeping this box for that purpose for sure. This is a really, really useful tool. It comes from a Japanese hobby site. So honestly, when you go there to get this tool, you're probably gonna check out with like 10 different things you didn't know you needed. So fair warning. It can take a while for shipping. So if you do feel like there's multiple things you want, I say get them all in one batch, and it'll save you from having to do multiple orders from pretty far away. But I really like this thing. It's pretty fun, and it's not very expensive. I wanna say it's like $30 to $40. So for the amount of sanding I do, so worth it. I really like that one. Now, staying within our theme of sanding, because that's what I do, I have here these sponge sander attachments for a drill. I recently did a really big project with my creative partner, Mel Ho, and we converted an old horsey ride, a coin-op horsey ride, to look incredible and amazing for open sauce. And in that process, we got this old coin-operated horsey ride that had chipping paint, and we wanted to give it a beautiful makeover. When it came time to sand that, it was a bit of a complicated shape, right? A horse is an organic shape with lots of curves, so using something like, an orbital sander with a flat surface wasn't giving us even results, and it wasn't letting us get into a lot of nooks and crannies. So when I found that something like this existed, I was very excited. I ended up ordering multiple sets of them because we had a whole crew of people working on it. One of the ways it works is, so you see here, this is the back attachment that can pop right into your drill. It has a sponge layer and hook and loop fastener layer on top. Then here are the accessories for it. It comes with many number of grit sandpaper. Now, anytime that I order any kind of specialty sanding equipment, like say this, mini oscillating sander or this, I never know if I'm gonna be able to find replacement sandpaper, at my local hardware store or anything like that. So I order lots of extra just to be safe because I go through this stuff fast. So you have many different grits of sandpaper. It tells you the number on the back. It works like most electric sanders where it's got the soft side here, the pokey side here, put that down, you're good to go. Now, this came in 2 sizes, which was actually quite helpful depending on, what detail I was sanding. But what's interesting is that it's the same size sandpaper, whether you use the big one or the little one. And at first it was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to trim all of this down to fit this smaller size so that it didn't have all this like hangover flange. Actually, it worked out really well not to trim it, because especially when you're getting into, a horse has basic anatomy like a human, right? So if I was trying to sand in here and I put this down, the sandpaper actually bends and the fold overs around the edges can sand the other parts around what I'm doing. So I liked leaving it long. Obviously, you're welcome to trim it if you want to, if you don't want to touch things that are around it, but I found that it was fast, easy, and made sense to let it be free. Now, these aren't forever tools, if that's a kind way to say it. I ordered 2 sets and we really used them, and I can show you examples of how some of them fared after this intense job. So the foam definitely is breaking down. I think if I tried to remove the sandpaper that's on here right now from the hook and loop fastener, it would just rip this bit of foam right off. So it's at the end of its life, but I tell you, it really served its purpose and it was worth it to me. This was not a very expensive tool and it gave me a lot for my money. So I'm quite happy with how it performed, but it's not gonna last me many seasons, if you take my drift. I really like this. I'll probably end up using these on many projects in the future. Again, I hate sanding, but I do it all the time. So anything that's gonna make my life a little bit easier, I'm gonna take that and run with it. So now from that same job, I also ended up using some acrylic paint pens. When we got the whole horse sanded down, it created a really beautiful marbling. It almost looked like Fordite, so you have many different layers and colors all going together. It looked like agate stone. And we realized we wanted to keep that. We thought that it was magical and beautiful, and that was exactly the look we were going for. But in the sanding process, sometimes you went a little far, and so you would have these big white patches where you hit the fiberglass of the base of the horse. So what were we gonna do to fill that bit in? I found these acrylic paint pens on Amazon, and I didn't think that there was going to be anything particularly special about them, but they ended up being really amazing. So number one, they dried pretty quickly. I was expecting it to be rather wet for a while and messy and not blend so well. These dried fairly quickly. They did not leave streak marks. If you take a marker and you draw on a coloring book page, you're gonna see some of the overlap and you're gonna see the lines about where you drew. You don't really get that with these. They come out a lot more like paint, and so it blends really well. The tips are rather hardy, so even in spots where maybe the surface wasn't so clean and there was a lot of gunk there, the paint tips held up. And I love the color range that we had. I think we matched almost everything that we needed to with this set. They didn't dry out. they did everything I asked of them. I was really rather happy with that. Also, we ended up coloring some 3D printed tree frogs that were large, and we pretty much just did that exclusively with these pens, and that worked really well as well. Like, I think if you had a bunch of 3D prints that you were looking to do an easy paint job on, you could essentially just color them with these markers, which I know I do a lot of painting, and so I'm not as scared or intimidated by that process, but a lot of people I know that don't do painting are like, I can't do that. I can do building, I can do this, I can do 3D printing, but I can't decorate it. And this takes away some of that, insecurity that people might have. Everybody is comfortable to sit down with a pen, right? Like that's attainable. And so I definitely recommend trying this out the next time that you have a project that you need to work on. I am not great with beauty products. I don't have a regimen that I stick to. I don't know what most things do. Don't come to me for beauty tips. That's not my thing. But this summer, I was sick as a dog with COVID. I was in bed, just, out of my mind, and scrolling, of course, on my phone. That's all I could do. And I came across something that just made me laugh so hard. It was referring to snail mucin. And I just remember looking at that, laughing, going, is that exactly what it sounds like? And it's exactly what it sounds like. So I ended up on the product page for it, and it felt so utterly ridiculous. It was talking about, if you think about a snail and like the snail trails that it leaves behind, that goo that they produce, and I'm looking through and I'm like, this can't be real. I'm having a fever dream right now. I'm like delirious with COVID and imagining that people are using snail goo as a beauty product. They had a photo of a woman who just had like snail slime like squirted down her face. And I was like, what? And then it said, there was like an infographic that was like, don't worry, no snails harm. We put them on mesh and collect the goo that falls underneath. And I was laying in bed, like I don't think I've ever laughed so hard, which then led to a coughing fit naturally. And just because of how crazy that was, I ordered the product in my fever state and then was very surprised when it showed up. I was like, wait, who ordered this? Because I didn't. So this is my snail mucin. And again, I don't know if I can tell you it works. I don't know what it would mean if it did work. I have been using it for the past few weeks, I'd say. A little bit goes a long way, but it really just fulfills all of my hopes and dreams of like, I like to imagine that, an old witch crone like goes into the forest and like lays on the floor in the woods, and like all the snails come and cover her body, and then she like walks out this beautiful hot young witch. And so every night when I put this on, that's sort of what I envision. And hey, guess what? It makes me actually put this on because I don't stick to beauty regimens otherwise. But right now, this one makes me smile and laugh. And so I'm just going to say, hey, this is something that I really like and brings me joy. I don't know anything about beauty products, but I have a friend, Michelle, who goes by Lab Muffin Beauty Science, and she does know about beauty products. She is a doctor who breaks down all of the popular skincare and makeup and hair products, and she actually does recommend this. So if you're curious to know its real effects, go check her out, and she can probably give you more information on this. Otherwise, I'm just over here laughing, like imagining that I'm like falling asleep with snails all over my body, and that makes me happy. All right, this is definitely one of my favorite things, probably of all time. So I do a lot of work at Tippett Studio, and during 2020, when everybody started working remotely, they ended up with a ton of extra office chairs and risers for your computer monitor. And as they were like, well, what do we do with all of this? Are we just gonna throw it all away? Like, we'll donate them all? This wonderful genius named Blair, who works there, decided they were going to take all the components and create some very useful workstations. So the bottom half of this is from an office chair, essentially, a tall one. And the top part is an upside down computer riser. They added some custom accessories around the outside here. And now everyone around the shop has pretty much a custom workstation made just for them and their needs. So say on the stage, there's one that has a spare computer, and that way if you're doing some stop motion, you can have access to a monitor and a computer right there to access your files or to look at whatever it is you're working on. They have made some of these for the mold shop. They've made some for painting. And after the last job I did, I was like, gosh, I really wish I had one of these for my home shop because it's so useful. And the amazing angel that they were like, you know what? I have an extra base and an extra riser. I'll make you one for your shop. So it's fantastic. I really like using these for any sort of mobile workstation I need. So if I'm going to be doing a paint job and I need to load up all the paints I'm going to need and bring it over to where I'm painting, this is good for it. If I want this to be my workstation, I can set up all of my tools on the side here. So for example, I did a job where I was painting, I needed to paint out on the stage. So I brought this into the paint shop and I got it all loaded up. So these holes here fit perfectly solo cups, which I end up using a lot for, my waters or my washes. These smaller ones fit like smaller like Dixie cups, which is really great. Back here, it fits a perfect deli cup, and I think these are 2 more solo cup sizes. And then these are just general storage compartments. So what I'll usually do is I'll have, some acid brushes, some chip brushes, maybe some Q-tips or toothpicks. And on some of them, I don't believe this one has it because I told them I didn't need it, but they will put a roll, like a peg down below that you can put a roll of paper towels on. And you're just sort of set for anything you need. And what's great is that this height allows you, if you needed to, if you had, say, a big figure or something here that was taller, I could essentially use this as my turntable. I could paint this. If I had my airbrush nearby, I could be spraying it as I rotate it. It's so versatile. It's so wonderful. I could use this for electronics if I needed to. I could set it up, having my glue gun on this. I could pretty much do anything I needed to, and I just love that it's actually quite compact. And it's so mobile. So if I'm not using it, I can tuck it away in the corner and it really doesn't take up too much space. Like it actually feels like it takes up less space than a chair, which I don't know if that makes sense, but it feels that way to me. I think because it's not as deep as a chair, but I really love it. I love that it was made for me with care and intention. Like it feels that much sweeter that they made this for me. And I think that this is going to be one of those pieces that I just have probably forever, and I'm always going to think fondly of it, and I'm going to use it, which is the best thing you can do with a present or something that was given to you or made for you, is like use it, and that's the best things you can give. So this means a lot. All right, these are my favorite things of 2024. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked some of them. Let me know in the comments if anything spoke to you or if you found anything this year that was your favorite thing. I can check it out. Watch some of my friends' favorite things videos as well, and I hope you have a great year. And if you're interested in seeing some more content by myself and some of my friends here at Tested, check out our new channel, Tested Teams. More info below, and you can see some of the other fun stuff we're up to.